for myself, because mental wellness is not finite. It is not this thing that you get and you put up on the wall like your degree and you have it forever. You have to work on it daily. Every moment, every decision is your choice for mental wellness. And I have 3 girls, and I'm always pouring into them and trying to make them understand that your worth is not attached to your work. You are worthy by the merit of your by the merit of your birth. You being here means you're worth something. And you have to know that. So with that fundamental understanding, it allows you to accept the help it is that you need. To not attach yourself to what someone else's idea of you is, right? To what someone's idea of who it is that you should be. And to every day work hard in order to maintain your own well-being. You have to be selfful in that way. And we often think that it's selfish to take care of ourselves. When in fact, most times other people think you should be doing what they want you to do instead of what you want to do, and then they'll call you selfish for it. And we tend to absorb that. But I'm here to remind you to reject that. Reject that idea of them, reject that idea that they're putting on you, and understand that who it is that you are and what it is that you want, it matters. You taking care of you is important, okay? This says here, do you really take time out to look after your holistic and balanced well-being? So at first I saw a show of hands, about 5 to 6, that said they did take care of themselves. Now I want to ask a more refined question. On a holistic level, do you look after your well-being? Let me see by show of hands. 1, 2. Keep them up for me. Keep them up. Keep them up. 3, 4. I see 4 hands. 3, 6, 9. 18. So it looks like it's 18 of us on it. And from that, I see 5 hands total. 5 hands total. And that is really, you all, so often, like it is that I just said, okay, I see your hands. I see your hands. So often I can't see the chat. Thank you for pushing that hands button. You know, 5 out of 18, 4 or 5, whatever that is, out of 18 is really, again, pretty common among women, especially entrepreneurs. And it is common, again, because we are conditioned to think that we are supposed to take care of someone else. We are conditioned to think that what we want doesn't matter or should be sacrificed for our family, for the world, for our children. But at what point do you unlearn that? I often tell my clients, because my training company is holistic. We go from the personal to the professional development for corporate clients and startup entrepreneurs. And I oftentimes tell them, you know, you have, what is it that I was about to say about unlearning? Or I tell them oftentimes, the thought just dropped my whole mind, you all. Let me come back to that. I don't know what happened. My mind just went blank on that. But let's stay on this. Balance that well-being. Okay? Let's jump right ahead into self-care. Now, this is a definition of self-care. Self-care is a broad term that encompasses all that you do to take care of your general well-being. It is any activity that we carry out deliberately in order to take care of our physical, mental, emotional, and social health. That is a holistic approach to self-care. You can't just say, well, I want to be financially well off, and then your mental is in constant turmoil, right? You're out of balance, and it's not sustainable, right? You cannot be gleefully and joyfully well mentally and be broke, right? Where you can't take care of yourself on a day-to-day basis. Because with that comes a higher stress and an anxiety anytime it is that you have to worry about taking care of yourself. There is a way that this can be balanced. And it's important that you understand that self-care is not something you do just when you have a breakdown. Self-care is something that you have to do and choose, really, from my vantage point, it's on a day-to-day basis. Even if you have a house full of children and you work a job or 2 jobs and you have a company, and you still have to carve out some time in the day that you are taking care of you. What does that look like for you? Is that 5 minutes in the morning of meditation and prayer? and that kind of anchors you in for your day? Or is it right before you go to bed at night, a bubble bath that just says, I am going to wind down and I'm deliberate. Don't bother me. Don't talk to me. Whatever it is that looks like for you. Anytime I think about this topic, I think about when my children were young. We had our children pretty quickly. And let me tell you a little secret about me, or fun fact. Somebody said this earlier. I was pregnant 4 times in 5 years, my husband and I. So we were having baby, right? So you want to talk about a mental, like, oh my goodness, I was pregnant in 99, had her in 2000. Pregnant in 2001, had her in 2002. Pregnant in 2003, lost the baby. 3 months later, pregnant again and had her in 2004. So you want to talk about someone whose mind was doing mental acrobatics. Not only hormonally was I going through all of these things, physically I was going through all of these things. So mentally I was going through all of these things. And literally in the physical world, my world was changing, right? I was nursing a baby, potty training, and pregnant. So it was a lot. It was a lot going on. And I understood then, now that I look at it, because I made it through that point, but I understand then that it was, in order for me to get to where I am here now, the life that I created for myself then, I had to make it through that. I had to develop tools along the way that said, Shirley, you can do this. You have children watching you. You have goals it is that you want. You want to be a great mom and live the life of your dreams. So much so, that's why I love this topic so much. So much so that I actually wrote a whole book about it, right? And it's called You're More Than Their Mother. Because oftentimes we get tied up thinking that we have to sacrifice one for the other. And that's just not so. The whole well-being is a holistic declaration. Your physical matters, your mental matters. It all contributes to you being well. All right, we okay with that so far? All right, let's keep going. So remember earlier when we first started off, I talked to you a bit about how entrepreneurs, we dream in color, right? I think that's the term it is that I use. And that just simply means that our synapses are always popping, from ideas to desires to visions, right, to the physical work. And I heard someone on here, I think it was Makara, when she says, wow, being a CEO is not what I thought or what people try to push. It is more of many hats. Well, I often tell people when you are an entrepreneur, you are the CEO and the janitor, right? So you're taking boardroom meetings and you also cleaning your bathroom, because that's just what you have to do in order to get to where it is that you want to get to. That being said, because we have all of these things going on with us mentally and we want to make these things manifest, we want these things to happen for us. So we're trying everything it is we can. Everything it is that we can. We're working and burning the midnight oil. We're up before the roosters crow, right? We're everywhere between the time, especially for those that stay-at-home mom. I know what it's like when your children are in school. You have 6 to 8 hours a day, whatever it is, and you are doing everything you can think of within those 8 hours before they come back, because once they come back, it goes up a level, right? From dinner to baths to playtime to homework. And then you don't have time to do what it is that you need to do. But that is not a sustainable path. You have to be deliberate about your health, about your mental well-being. Research has shown that entrepreneurs are twice as likely to suffer from depression. I'm certain I heard someone on here said they were suffering with depression, right? Right? Twice as likely, because you feel like, number one, there's a such thing as imposter syndrome. Have you all ever heard of that? And that thing can take you down. You don't think you're worthy. You don't think that you know what you know, right? And why are people spending with you? And then there's when you don't feel worthy. Well, who am I? And I also heard someone on here talk about their upbringing, that it could have been challenging for them. And you carry that trauma with you forward, right? But you know the truth of who you are, knows that there's something bigger going on inside of you. And that never goes away. So those two conflicting ideas of yourself, right, of who it is you think you are and who it is you truly are, conflicts. You live in the middle of that, and it turns into depression. That's a true fact that it happens in that way. I was never diagnosed with depression, but I always say I feel like I knew that I was depressed. when my children were younger because I was buying into this idea of what society said a good mom is, right? And I knew that I wanted to be more than that I was more than their mother. I loved my children, but I had a dream that I wanted to realize. And every time I would start or get going in that, someone would always kind of question me, and I absorbed that. I want to take accountability. It's nobody's responsibility to be something that I want them to be so I can feel better, right? And I want to submit that to you. It's no one's responsibility to be different so you can feel better. Your mental well-being is 100% your responsibility. Okay? That makes sense? So these statistics it is that you see here up on your screen, from depression to ADHD, and you might be self-identifying as you look at these things, to suffering from substance abuse, right? Bipolar disorder, or some psychiatric hospitalization, right? Entrepreneurs are twice as likely, or many times in different instances, 10 in some, 3 in others, 2 in others, but many times more likely than non-entrepreneurs to suffer from this. So someone on here also said knowledge is power, right? So having this information allows you to get out ahead of this, right? Who's that who said they wanted to be reactive or respond instead of reactive? Yes, Amanda, is that Amanda? Yes. Amanda, here's the information you need. Wow, these things are more likely to happen to me as I go after my dreams. What am I doing right now on a daily basis to choose differently? How is it that I can show up better for myself? It's always the question that should be percolating in your mind. Okay? Everybody get that? We clear to go forward? Yes? All right.
Yeah, that's definitely good. Thank you.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So this one says, here, I'm sorry, did I hear someone ask a question as well?
No.
Okay, I'm going to keep going. So this slide says, when asked to explain why he thought this was, meaning all of those different symptoms that come up with entrepreneurs, he said, entrepreneurs are trained to ignore the qualitative needs of their well-being measured in meaningful and authentic relationships, overall life satisfaction, and happiness. So for people who like data and numbers, essentially what this says is your qualitative measures are not important. They are not important as an entrepreneur. This is what this doctor is saying we've been conditioned to believe. And whether we've been conditioned out loud or we saw this about our lives, right, been promoted in life or in our environments, somehow we've internalized and absorbed that, and we're now using or mirroring that in our own lives. And we're burning ourselves out. We're burning ourselves out physically. I often tell, this is what it was. Remember when my mind went blank? Let me rewind if you don't mind. I often tell my children if they have a headache or they get sick or something like that, I always tell them, because self-care is one of my guiding missions in life, personal and professional. I tell them oftentimes, a cold didn't come to make you sick. Your headache didn't come to make your head hurt. It came to make you aware that you need to pay more attention to your body.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Yeah. So I want to submit that to you. When you feel depressed, it didn't just come to make you sad. It came to make you aware that you need your attention. When you are feeling overwhelmed, it's not just to make you feel scrambled. It is here, that indication, that feeling is here to make you aware that you need clarity. And we have to understand what we need, then reverse engineer that thing. So if I need to have clarity in my life, that means, where do I need to create a quiet space for myself? Who is it that I need to tell no to? Where can I tell myself yes more? What is it that I can reprioritize? Who is it that I need to make a new agreement with because now I have new information? Does that make sense? Okay, so those are the things that's what it was. I was that went blank in my mind. But I think it's highly applicable here as well. Would you agree? Right? That coincides with the information it is that we're talking about. So it's so important that you understand the importance and how imperative mental well-being is. So here it's asking, right in that yellow dot, it says, share a personal example of where this relates to you, right? So anyone who's on the call now, please just unmute yourself. Share with us a personal example of where this relates to you. That basically that no pain, no gain.
I will.
Yes, Renee. Thank you.
When I was raising my 6 kids,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that I had a depression. I
Mm.
really did not know at all.
Mm-hmm.
But I raised my kids, and I remember when I went to nursing school, when I graduated, and then I had to work. So I worked while raising these 6 kids, and like any school activities they had, I couldn't say, okay, I'm going to one tonight,
Mm-hmm.
and another one tomorrow night or whatever. It was always a battle to do these things because I had to work. Then I had to go for my kids because I had to show them some support.
Yes.
So I was like just going and going and going, but not even thinking about, the
Yourself.
depression.
Mm-hmm.
And then one day, I don't remember what I was doing, but I just slammed this glass in the sink and started screaming and yelling. And after that, I went and got to see a doctor, see a psychiatrist.
I love it. I love it. Isn't
I
that?
realized something was not right, and then that's how I learned how to back up and say, wait a minute, it's about Renee.
Yes, indeed.
My mental health.
Yes.
I got to make sure my mental health stays good.
Yes. Yes, indeed. I love that example. And isn't it something that we get to the brink in that way, and then we have to triage ourselves? What is it about us that doesn't allow us to take care of ourselves sooner and on an ongoing basis? That's the thing we need to unpack, and that's another training for another day. But thank you so much for sharing, Renee. Please, Alana, share with me.
You're welcome.
Yes, I neglected to say I have 5 children between the ages of my eldest daughter is 18, my youngest is 5, so I have 3 girls and 2 boys. But anyways, I was sexually abused by my father when I was a child, and they did a Harvard study on 17,500 people, and they said that childhood trauma that goes unhealed can take up to 20 years off your life expectancy.
Yes, indeed.
And this is another reason why I am so passionate about, the children.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, it just, the nightmares, walking around with the constant anger, the early memory being embedded that I wasn't worthy because, this was done to me. And trauma also, they've done studies where it literally changes your DNA.
Yes, indeed.
Your genetic makeup.
Yes.
So I did reach my point where, it's like, Lord have mercy. You're give me something, and that's when I went to therapy, been in and out of therapy since I was a child into my early 20s. But when I was blessed to have a life coach that taught me the holistic view and to put myself first,
Yes.
it's something that it's new, and the pillars of self-care, it's something new for me, and I have to take deep breaths because the initial thing for me is like, okay, I felt neglected, or I felt this way as a child, for all these reasons, and sometimes if it's not put into perspective, it was actually crippling to my children.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, because indeed. Whereas we're supposed to make them strong and resilient. I do raise them to be strong and resilient, but it was a crutch where I was a little too soft and didn't give them what they needed, and now I could I just deal with everything from the point of love.
Yes.
Them. But anyways, I lost my train of thought.
Yes,
for what I was,
indeed.
but.
No. Well, it hit right over here. I understood exactly what it was that you were saying. Essentially, that unhealed trauma, it affects generations, and that's called epigenetics. It's called epigenetics. And I'll give you all just another little side personal about me. In my company, I told you we train in core competencies. And of course, that's anything not technical, right? From communication to conflict resolution to diversity and inclusion and emotional intelligence, etc. Of course, diversity and inclusion is hot right now, right? So I was telling one of, I had a speaking engagement. I was speaking on a call, gosh, well, 2-3 days ago, whatever it was. But I was telling the audience about epigenetics and how it changes us molecularly, right? Trauma does. And this group of people, they weren't understanding essentially what was happening in the Black community by and large, right? What was this outrage about the law say that we're all equal, and just to kind of put it generically. And I told them then, and I submit this to you just to really reinforce this point, that, we look at people, and if you think about a lot of people, many of them, they haven't gotten over their childhood sweetheart. Yet, our parents were enslaved. Our grandparents were enslaved. Right? So for you to think that we should just be over that because we're 1 or 2 generations out of that, it's illogical, right? So I say to you, that type of trauma that you suffer by someone who you would think would protect you, right? And that type of trauma, it's absolutely going to affect you unless you heal. And that's an ongoing process. Healing that's something you have to work on perpetually, right? So I just think it is fantastic that you took that initiative for yourself, because the reality is, and this goes for all of us, and it's important that we all hear this, many people have had many things to happen to them over their lives. Some so severe, they're just unthinkable, like what Alana was so vulnerable and so gracious enough to share with us. But as adults, we are now responsible for our lives. So we are 100% responsible. We can't go back to that. So this example, or you saying how you went and you got counseling and therapy, and now it's changed your paradigm and how it is that you raise your children will now be different because of that. So because you decided that your mental well-being was important to your personal evolution and your personal healing. And now you have affected generations out from you now to not have to relive that trauma and to not be affected by someone who has had, not be affected, negatively impacted. By someone who's gone through that type of trauma. So thank you so much for sharing that and for what you are contributing to the world in that way. I see you again. Please, Alana, go ahead.
Just really quick. I don't want to take up too much time. I wanted to say that before my father passed away, I fully forgave him, and my perspective was able to shift in the sense of, how will I know what forgiveness is if there's nothing for me to forgive? Mm-hmm. So in that experience, I may have not asked for it to come about in that manner, mm-hmm. but I did learn forgiveness.
Mm-hmm. Good for you. Good for you. Thank you so much for sharing, Alana. Okay, we are going to move forward. That was powerful. Thank you again for sharing that. I think I went back there. There we are. Okay, so no matter how indulgent this term, meaning self-care, may sound to you in light of your workload, good self-care is crucial. I think we have reinforced that over and over again, right? So often, you all, and I hear this from my clients to prospects to people it is I talk to on the street, they think that self-care is just going to the spa or getting a massage or going on a vacation. It is not a one and done, right? While that may be what you need this month or this time, a good bath may be what you need tomorrow. And that is indeed self-care. And it should be recognized as such, because when we learn to own what it is that we need without proximity to anything else, not what our parents did, not what society expects, not what our children want, but truly, what is it that makes us feel good? What is it that makes us feel well? How are we appeased in the moment, right? To get ourselves to calm in order to begin to care for ourselves in a way that we need for that moment. What is that? And I believe that we know moment by moment because we were born with what I call an internal gauge and what the world calls feelings. When it doesn't feel right, you don't feel right, do you? When it's not right, you don't feel right. And nobody even has to say it. And if you don't think that's true, have you ever walked into a space that you may not even know anyone and something just felt off? and you said, that's not right. And you just got out of there. You were like, well, let me get out of here. No, I'll keep on going, whatever reason you gave. But nobody had to say anything. You didn't hear anything from anybody else. Something just didn't feel right, right? And so you responded to that. Now, the same power that you're able to do that with, you're able to use it for your personal self as well, for your personal care as well. It's just about us harnessing that for ourselves and believing we're worthy of that type of care, right? And we have to give it to ourselves first. It says here that self-care is something that refuels us rather than takes from us. So a good example is that is people think that self-care is a vacation, but they don't have the money for a vacation. So I'm just going to go anyway. And now they didn't solve a problem, but they created a new problem, right? So now I can't pay my mortgage, rent, lights, phone, whatever the case may be, right? So that may not be self-care for you in that moment, right? In that moment. What does self-care look like for you? Keep checking in on yourself. Keep allowing yourself grace to say, I have a lot going on. I know the kids have all of these things that they need, whatever it is from me. I know I have 10 things to go through in 10 minutes to get it all done. But for 2 minutes, I will do what? What does that look like for you? Identify it. So we talked about self-care, what it is. Let's talk about what it's not a little bit more in depth. I want to get targeted with this because I don't want us to think that, I don't want us to have a skewed view of what self-care is. So self-care is not something that should be seen as indulgent. Remember I told you that self-care is perpetual. It's something that goes on all the time. It's not this thing that when you have a breakdown, you go and do it, right? And you just have to indulge. You go and do something and you indulge in it really because you have no other choice. Your body is broken down or you've gotten sick, whatever the case may be. Self-care is something that goes on day to day. It's a moment-by-moment response, a moment-by-moment decision. It's not something that you do once in a while, like taking vacation. We talked about that. It's not an activity that we force ourselves to do and we don't enjoy doing it. Now, some people don't like massages, but they hear, right? This is what you do to go wind down and whatever the case may be. So let me just go because I do need to wind down. And while it may be beneficial in some areas, it can also be a little bit more harmful than you plan, right? It can be something. Have you ever heard about, I forget how it goes, but it's called a cheerful giver, right?
I heard that, but I don't know too much about it.
It's essentially what it's about, and it's just a parable, but essentially it's about people, if you choose to give something, you're better off giving it cheerfully versus giving it begrudgingly as it returns to you, right? You feel better about it, right? Am I kind of getting it right? I don't know the whole thing, but that's the gist of it, right? Well, you have to think about that as it applies to yourself. Don't go and do something just because you think, oh, this is what I need to do in order to take care of myself. You won't get the full benefits from it. You want to go and find something that you enjoy doing. It doesn't matter if the world says this is self-care. And I'm saying this to you, and I'm being slow and thorough and methodical in what it is that I say because I'm talking to a bunch of women. And so often we buy into what it is that other people have said it is that we're supposed to do, be, or have. And I'm here to help you unlearn that. I'm here to help you obliterate those thoughts. I'm here to help you eradicate that mindset and to really make an agreement with yourself that what you want, whatever that may be, for yourself is just fine. It's okay just as it is because you said so. Not because it's popular or the world said so or your girlfriends do it or ... right? Alrighty. Not everything that feels good is self-care. Whoa, now that's a big one. Tell me your thoughts around that. Not everything that feels good is self-care.
I don't know if this is appropriate to say or not, but it really felt, when I was working as a director of nursing, it felt good every day to come home and drink 2 glasses of wine. And because the stress of that day, every day that I worked this last year, I felt I was taking care of myself because I'm sitting down having me a a glass of wine.
Yes.
But that's not taking care of myself. That's masking
Yes.
the situation, the problem, because I'm not fixing anything, and I'm just masking my emotions, or actually I'm numbing my emotions.
Yes. Yes. Good example.
That's a good example.
Yes. Yes, indeed. You are very close to what it is that I was thinking. I was going to say an example of it is you can't eat a pint of ice cream. It might feel good. You can't eat a pint of ice cream every night, right?
Okay.
You just cannot do it.
But you'll get fat.
And that's the truth.
You feel bad about yourself anyway.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. You will listen. You finishing off this presentation. You putting a punctuation to it, and that's absolutely true. Not only will you feel bad, you probably won't look like you're trying to look physically. Not only that, you're going to cause some problems in terms of your diabetes, and nurse, help me out. What is all of that called, right? But from diabetes to high blood pressure, now you got the high blood pressure to diabetes. Your physical activity is slowed to none. So now we're talking about stiffness of joints and arthritis, and right? So it just,
Definitely.
it just continues to go on. So just because it feels good in that sense. So we have to be discerning, in other words, right? We talked about doing it because it feels good and that internal gauge, but I think that we are all mature enough to understand that we need discernment with that as well. So be wise as you're making your decisions on what it is that you choose as self-care to you. Thank you for your participation, Sherry. And then it says not about an emergency response plan that you carry out when stress begins to take its toll on you. I think we talked about that and knocked that out of the park when we said we shouldn't have to fall out, right? In essence, we should not have to fall out in order to take care of ourselves. Alrighty, so let's talk about the benefits of self-care. And I heard some of you all talk about self-esteem. I heard some of you all talk about self-worth. I heard you talk about mental clarity, right? And here it is. And I heard many of you all talk about the many hats it is that you're wearing, right? So what we know is that when we have all of these hats it is that we're wearing, it doesn't always mean that we're being productive just because we are busy, right? But what we want to know is how is it that we can maximize the time it is that we have for the efforts it is that we put forth in that time, right? So how can we be most productive? Self-care is one. And I'll tell you why self-care can help increase productivity. It can help because in those moments of self-care, for example, say we take 5 minutes in the morning to do some meditation, right? I know for some people, writing is cathartic. They journal, right? For some people like me, I communicate for a living, so talking for me is cathartic. My poor husband, I wake up multiple times a night and say, did you know, have I told you that? Have you considered, with his sweet self, he just wakes up. But if he tries to wake me up, I throw all kind of fits. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm asleep. Right? So funny, but that's my self-care, and I'm so happy that he indulges me in that way. But because we take those moments, in all seriousness, because we take those moments of self-care, and we're using the example here of that 5 minutes of meditation in the morning, we're able to usher in clarity of thought. We're able to usher in a calmness, right? We're able to usher in reason at that point because we're not in a combative situation or a hurried situation or something that we have anxiety about, because this is moments we're taking for ourselves. And so resources in the way that we think, what it is that we need to do, how it is that we'll get to from where we are to where we want to be, they come to us in the most clear, concise moments, in the most clear, concise way in those moments. So when you do get up from that meditation or prayer or whatever it is that you have in those first 5 minutes, you get up saying, okay, let's go. We're going to do A, B, and C, right? Because you've kind of thought ahead and you have the vision and whatever it is that you need for yourself to get through that day. Okay, so that's an example of how it is we're talking about self-care improving productivity. Better resistance to disease. My nurse friend who is on here now, I know you can attest to that a well-rested body fights, the immunity is stronger. right? And I know that we heal when we're asleep. Isn't that right? Our body restores itself. So all the fighting that's going on for our body's immune system, that our body's immune system does, it happens when you get rest, right? It happens when you are taking care of yourself. So I'm hoping that self-care, in part of your self-care practice, you want to increase the rest it is that you get, right? What does that look like? A nap? Does that look like just laying on the couch or across the bed for a little while? What does that look like for you? Okay? And also enhance self-esteem. When you get clearer, when you get clarity of thought, when you feel better, right? You feel better. When you feel better, when you feel better, you feel better. When you get clarity of thought, when you are more focused, you feel better. And that is a boost to your self-esteem. So it's less likely that I can come along and tell you what you need to do for you because you have clarity of thought. So you can say, well, while I appreciate that thought, that doesn't work for me. I'm choosing not to do that. Or while I appreciate that thought, I think I'll use this portion of it because that is relevant to my life and the vision it is that I have, right? Or I appreciate that thought. That's exactly what I need. That discernment is sharpened in those moments of self-care, right? And then when you have that self-care, you can speak more decidedly for yourself. You feel more confident in your decision, right? I'm telling you, those small qualitative things add up to huge qualitative measures, right? That it's something that I'm telling you, I'm talking to you from a lived experience, okay? Improved benefits also include improved capacity to give. It is only when you are good to yourself that you will be able to be good to others. And what I submit, I want to add this on to this, is that this includes financial giving. So often, and once again, I have to lean into us as women because I know most about us because I am one, right? Because we are nurturers, we will give whatever we have and whatever we can, right? And that includes so often giving more than we can. How do I put this? I'm trying to put this in a way that is diplomatic. We oftentimes give from a space that we don't have. And again, I often tell my children this because I'm intentional about them taking care of themselves and not falling into the vortex of thinking that they were brought here to take care of someone else. When you do that, when you give from something you don't have or you overextend yourself, that's the word I'm looking for. You're not solving a problem. You're creating a new one that you are now the problem, right? And then that means we're impacting our families more because we have to go and ask them. Well, they have to get it from somewhere. So now they have to do a little bit more. Is that a little more time, a little more money, a little bit more resources? Whatever it is that looks like, we shift that responsibility. Sometimes you just have to say, I don't have it. Let me offer you my words of goodwill and point you in a direction that perhaps someone else can help. And that be enough. And we can choose not to feel guilty about that, right? Yes. Increase knowledge about yourself. We talked about how that can come through clarity. Huh? I'm sorry.
I'm not hearing.
I'm sorry. Who is that? I'm not sure who that is.
I think somebody said that they can hear you, but I can hear you.
Oh, okay. I'm not sure. Everybody can still hear me. Just kind of put your hand up if you can. Yes, yes. Okay. Okay. All righty. Okay. Well, I'm hoping that sounds like it's something technical on your end. So I'm hoping that gets worked out for you. Next, we're talking about better physical health and fitness. These are benefits of self-care. Let me share with you another fun fact about me. Remember I told you I diagnosed myself as depressed when my children were younger. And I just went in this vortex of not taking care of myself, of overeating. But when it finally clicked for me that I was more than their mother and that I deserved every dream it is that I had that was percolating in my head, I have since lost over 100 pounds all natural. I'm sorry, almost 100 pounds all naturally, right? Because my health is a priority to me. And I've kept it off now for probably about 10 plus years. I'm still working every day. a little bit over 12 years. I'm still working every day. I see you. Thank you for that. I'm working every day for it, but without fail, it doesn't matter what event they have. I don't care how many volleyball games you have. I will take a moment 4 days a week. I will take an hour, 4 days a week to work out without compromise. And after all it is that we do, I don't really buy into the, oh no, you weren't there for me. Oh, I absolutely was. I know that I was. I have the receipts, right, to prove it and how I pour into you, but I won't make it to every game. I'm not going to make it to every production. That's just what it is. And sometimes it's not because I'm busy. It's because I'm tired. And that's the answer. And what I hope that they take away from that as they grew up, and I think that they did, as I see them now as young ladies, what I hope that they take away from that is that their health is a priority. I don't have to be sick not to come. I can literally say, check in with myself and say, you are exhausted. And right now you need to rest. And that's what you're going to do. Right? And that has been so beneficial. And I think that the important thing that we do when we have moments like that are to communicate our decision to the people that we love and who will be impacted by it. I think that's the best thing that you can do. And for me, that's a form of self-care. All right. And also mental and emotional fitness, right? We talked about that. I don't think we need to go any further into that. So let's talk about the detriments here. And I'll just pull out a few as you can read them for yourself. We've talked about that, but from the insomnia and fatigue it is that happens with it, right? As women, we already have a lot of things happening with us hormonally, especially as we get older, right? So insomnia sometimes is a part of it. It's just like, wow, I'm just not sleeping. Well, now add to that the stress and and you not taking care of yourself. Now we're talking about how long will that type of thing go on? Now we're talking about how exhausted are we showing up to the next day? How do you engage with it as an exhausted person? Are you pleasant? Probably not, right? Or are you a little bit more snippy? Right? Are you a little bit less tolerant of things that before really don't need your response? Are you overreacting to things that you could likely not give your attention? They don't deserve your attention. Absolutely. So then that thing just tends to domino, right? Then we sever or fracture relationships when that type of things happens. And it just goes on and on. Those feelings of inadequacy. I know I heard that on here, right? That lack of good hygiene. Believe it or not, it happens. Depression, I don't know how severe you all have either experienced or seen someone go through depression, but they literally, sometimes they stop bathing and cleaning themselves, right? So this is a very serious thing. We are talking about your...
It can get bad.
Huh?
It can get bad.
Oh, yeah. Yes, indeed. Yes, and yes, indeed, Amanda. It sure can. Renee, did you say something? Did I miss you?
I said really bad.
Yes.
It can.
Yes. Yes. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. The other thing that can happen with this lack of self-care is frequent blaming of others. Now, how many of you all have either experienced that for yourself or you've seen other people go through it? Where they're constantly, it's always somebody else. Huh?
I've seen other people go through it.
Absolutely.
Blaming somebody else.
I had to kind of be real with myself too about that. Siblings are wonderful until they're not. So I had to kind of rein my own self in with that.
Yes.
And it's funny how you're talking about this because you become empowered whenever you take ownership of your own situation.
Yes, indeed.
And then you can move forward. But if you're consistently, it's someone else's thing, it's someone else's fault, then it's almost like you're giving your power away.
Yes.
And so yeah, I had learned that one the hard way.
Oh, Amanda, I love it. You put the punctuation on this. Absolutely. That's absolutely it. What I oftentimes tell my clients is your ongoing question is, how did I contribute to this situation?
Exactly.
That's always the question that should be asked in your mind. Because you did something else happened. There is an outcome. We're not here to label it good or bad yet. We are just talking about how you are functioning and outcomes, right? So if you have a goal of weight loss, you eating a pint of ice cream every day and going to work out and then saying, it's just my trainer just isn't working. This just is not working. You have to say, wait a minute, I'm steadily gaining weight. How did I contribute to that? How did I contribute? And then give yourself an honest answer. That doesn't mean you go and beat yourself up, but it does mean that you hold yourself accountable. And self-care is about holding yourself accountable. Self-care says, I deserve to feel good. I deserve to be okay. So I'm going to do this, right? That's you being accountable to you. So you being accountable and asking yourself, how am I contributing to a situation, is a form of self-care. Okay? Make sense? All righty. We talked about those other ones, addictions and negativity and low self-esteem. I'm telling you, it really is exponential, the harm that can be done. Then that moves us really right into this next slide. The opposite of self-care is self-harm. Have you all ever thought of it like this? And it really took me a minute to realize, wow, when I don't take care of myself, I'm actually harming myself. Right? That's a big deal. And that's something, hopefully, that causes for pause in you. Because you should not willfully cause harm to yourself. And when you know something, you have to do something about it, right? So examine your lives. What habits are potentially harmful to your well-being that you'd like to take a closer look at? For example, and you may want to self-identify here, toxic friendships. Do you find yourself mindlessly going through the social media or digital overload? Do you find yourself saying yes way too often, right? And over scheduling yourself, right? Those are all things that are harmful. All righty? So we're talking about entrepreneurs, and what I love about this is that they gave real life entrepreneurs a platform here to share what it is that they do for their self-care routine. And this may resonate with some of you all. Amanda, and I wrote down what each one of these are. I'm sorry, I said Amanda. I mean, Anna here, the first one, she says, and Anna is CEO of a Target marketing company.
Hey,
But-
I'll take it. You want to get it?
You said, I'll take it, huh? Yes. But here she says, Amanda's mantra is do things that feel good, right? Of course, using discernment. But do things that feel good, and just take a moment to read over that and see how it is that she goes into it. I'll give you a second to do that, and then we'll look right at Serena. Alrighty, so we're going to look at Serena, and she's the founder of Ask Didi, and that is a healthcare platform for women, right? And she says she meditates every morning, takes a short break during the day to eat a healthy meal, practices yoga, etc., etc. Take a moment and look at that, and what can you pull from that for your own routine? Is there something there? If not, move on. If it is, no need to reinvent the wheel. Jot it down. Let's get started in your routine. The next one is Maya Escobar, and Maya is the CEO of a brand strategy company, right? And she says Maya doesn't go for a daily run. She feels like her day is starting off, when she does it, she feels like her day is starting off on the wrong foot. So she goes for a run every morning. Read just a bit more about what it is that she does. So what does your self-care routine look like? Hers kind of resonates with me some, as mine is working out. I have to work out, otherwise it continues to weigh on me that says, girl, do it for yourself. Get healthy. The older you get, the more you want to travel and go. You need your knees to do that. You need your health to do that, right? That's my self-talk that goes on with me. And the final one is Laura, and Laura's company is a crowdfunding platform. And she says, right now, it says here in red, right now she tries to read fiction books or novels. Some people, that is their piece. Just give them a good book. They want to cuddle up in their chair or in their bed. I'm an audiobook girl. And we are good to go. We are good to go. Find out what works for you. Hopefully you pull some ideas from that. So, alrighty, unmute those phones and let's talk about this here as we are just about done. But I want to ask you, I'm looking for your feedback. How might a lack of self-care be affecting your business? So this is personal. I heard many of you on here saying that you have already started a business. So how is a lack of self-care affecting your business? For those of you who are about to, tell me how it could affect. And I'll just get 2 or 3 answers here. Anyone can chime in.
Well, the lack of self-care, when I don't, how it affects my business is that I end up like overbooking myself, and so I'm not able to really give my clients the quality of service that they really deserve.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing is even burnout.
Yes.
So when you starting off really good, but you're doing so much, you burn out, and then you just quit and you stop, and you like, wondering why, your business not progressing the way you want it to do because you start and stop because you're just taking on too much and you're not really paying attention
Yes,
to
indeed.
yourself and your needs and your well-being.
That's exactly it. Thank you, Makara. Yes, indeed. That overbooked. My goodness. That was my life. Anybody else can share with me?
The ways that I'm doing it is not focusing on this aspect of my life. Letting being in survival mode distract me and not, I guess, getting the proper help for that,
Yes.
if that makes sense.
Yes, indeed.
So I just feel like I'm running around in circles, not really making it anywhere, but tired at the end.
Yes. Yes. So true. So true. Did anyone else want to share? Thank you, Amanda.
Well,
Yeah. Yes, Monica. Thank you.
well, for me it was I ran into the whole negative environment in a work environment,
Mm-hmm.
and it looked, hindsight's 2020. I could see how that impacted me, being in that negative environment, and how I started to overbook myself. I started to overcommit. I started to say yes when I should say no.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is that it's kind of hearing Elena, I felt I didn't have her experience as a child, but I had a different experience as an adult. But the results were the same as far as, it changes your personality.
Yeah.
And the thing is to get the help so that I could go back to who I am,
Yeah.
is an important part of listening to this, hearing others, as well as continuing the journey to identify what are the things I'm doing wrong in order to make those improvements back to where I need to be.
Yeah. I love that. Thank you, Monica. Elena, I see your hand up. Yes.
For me, I think the biggest part of self-care is just breathing. I feel like I don't have bad days. I have bad moments.
Yeah.
And I just have to breathe. You come into this world, the first thing you do is take a breath. You're leaving, you're going to exhale. You come in, you inhale, you leave, you exhale, right?
Mm-hmm.
So breath is very essential and
Yeah.
important to me. And when I don't do that meditation, or I don't breathe consistently throughout the day, it's not good.
Yes. Yes, indeed. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Monica. Yes, I agree with all of you all. Can I give you one more for your consideration, ladies? Let me submit to you that a lack of self-care may be affecting the quality of work it is that you deliver in your business. Does that make sense? All right. Can anybody agree with that? Just hit the raise your hand button. Let me see. Where are my people?
I'm trying to raise my hand,
Yeah.
but I agree with you.
Yes. It should be a button right on it. This program is a little different. It's at the bottom for me. Absolutely. It shows up in the quality of your work. And unfortunately, when you are on a poor or you do not have a self-care routine, the quality of your work is lessened, right? How it is that you deliver on service is reduced. And if that is so, then you're talking about impacting a client that now leaves your business. Not only that, they tell a friend about your poor quality, right? And we know how that word of mouth can travel, especially now with the internet and social media being as robust as it is. That thing travels like that, right? And as wonderful as online marketing is and advertising, there's nothing still like word of mouth. It takes the customer from the thought to the decision in one step. Because if your best friend or a good friend of yours called and said, wow, Sherlyn Dorsey is fantastic in training, right? She delivered exactly what I needed and ... And you're looking for a trainer. More than likely, you're going to come and say, hey, Sherlyn, I wanted to talk to you about delivering training for me or for my company or whatever the case may be. You'll come directly to me. I won't have to advertise to you. Because you're taking the word, your girlfriend's word is good, right? So now take that and switch it. And we oftentimes talk more about a bad experience than we do a good one, don't we? We can't wait to tell somebody, oh my gosh, that customer service was horrible, or this product was bad. And it just travels like a wildfire. So I'm telling you, remember I told you that self-care is part of your ROI or your quantitative measures, right? Here we are. Here's how it shows up. All righty? All right. Oh, I think let me make sure. Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about those practical ideas for self-care. I'm just going to give you a moment to look at these because we actually went through each one of these almost earlier in the message. So I don't want to reiterate, but the one that stands out to me that most people don't hit on, and I think it was Alana who said it in the beginning, was that forgiveness piece, right? It's that forgiveness piece. That is a part of self-care. And I want to go in and talk about it even more in a more targeted way. It's not just about forgiving another person. It's also about forgiving yourself. Oftentimes I use the language of be gracious with yourself because sometimes people can become defensive when I say you need to forgive yourself and they go, oh, I don't need to forgive myself. Oh, I love myself, right? We hurry to say that and defend that about ourselves, but yet how we are functioning is not in a way that is shows that you love yourself and that you are taking care of yourself, right? Because you're burnt out. You're not doing self-care. You don't have a self-care routine. You're not taking moments for yourself, right? But when I tell people oftentimes be gracious with yourself, that tends to soften the blow. But in this case, it's pretty synonymous. I want you to, as you take accountability for yourself and as you understand how you're contributing to situations, as you realize that you can do better in managing your time and your mental wellness, I don't want you to get upset with yourself. I don't want you to think about you wasted time. I don't want you to think about what you could have done and what you should have done because that time is past. And as one of my good friends says all the time, don't should all over yourself, right? But I want you to forgive yourself and say, wow, I did the best I could for that moment. I know better now, so I'm going to do better now. I'm going to be more mindful as I move forward. Because my dream is not negotiable, right? My goal is not negotiable, but how it is you get there can be, right? So let's invest in what works for us and what will give us the best results. Okay? All righty, let's move forward. Here is an idea. So what I want you to do is to just really quickly jot down for me how it is that you can take care of yourself. What is it that you can do and put a time by it? And what I'm asking that you do, and this, unfortunately, I won't be able to call you every day to check in on this, but we'll do this by the honor system. What I'm asking you to do is to put in what time and how long it is that you will participate in your self-care routine. Here's an example. 5 a.m. wake up, coconut oil swishing, coffee, read a spiritually nurturing book. That's 5. I'm sorry, Ilana. What did you say?
Oh no, I'm sorry. You were saying agreed with.
Oh, yes. There, you can do that. That's this person at 5 a.m. And I'm asking you to go further. So give yourself from 5 to 6. Can you do that? Give yourself from 5 to 5:30. Can you do that? Can you give yourself from 5 to 5:10? Can you do that? Okay? Here's another idea, meal prep. That is absolutely self-care. That's one of my biggest self-care routines. On Sunday, I prepare my food. Because when I'm doing things like this, I'm still my kids' mama, even though I'm more than their mom. I'm still my husband's snookums, even though he has to carry on without me throughout the day, as hard as it may be. Okay, let me stop. But I'm still his wife, right? And I still also belong to me. I want time when I don't do anything, right? I don't want to prepare, but I know. So because I know those things, that means I want to make it as easy as I can on myself. So on Sundays, we make enough food for the week. So when I'm ready to eat, I don't have to go in, cook and cut up and prepare. I just go in, warm up my food, right? A 10-minute job versus an hour, hour and a half. So meal prep is huge for me. Okay? So do you have some things down? I'm hoping you do. We're going to come back to them here in a minute. These are just some trends. I'm not sure where you are with this, but if you cannot think of any because you have neglected self-care in yourself for so long that you're like, oh my goodness, I don't even know where to start. Here's some things that's on trend now, right? Emotional wellness, spiritual wellness, experiential wellness, right? Fitness class, book clubs, sleep. That's always on trend. Those are just some ideas it is that you can pull from. Alrighty, so this is just a diagram here. It says how to get a good night's sleep. Now, I'm sure many of you already have an idea of what that looks like for you. But too often, we are falling in the bed from exhaustion when we go to sleep versus a routine and a restorative type of sleep. And those are really two different things. So what bedtime routine can you have? So now I want you to go back at that self-care list where you identified the self-care routine, self-care technique or tool it is that you can use, and you identified a time or duration. Now I want you to go in and think about, can you do that at night, right before you go to bed, in order to give you a more restful and peaceful night's sleep? Can you add something to that? Maybe, for example, you had 10 minutes in the morning of meditation before your day got started. Can you add 10 minutes in the evening? Can you give yourself a bedtime? That is self-care. So often we just go to bed after the kids go to bed, because after the kids go to bed, then we go in there and do the laundry and sweep and that and this and that. And we just fall out from exhaustion and jump up to do it again. What can we do? Can you give yourself a bedtime? That is a part of self-care. Alrighty? Alrighty. Alrighty, and this is the final to-do here. It says here, create a self-care plan. So many of you all told me what you wanted out of this. This is your time now to create a rough template or a rough draft, right? To say, this is what I want. I want to know techniques on how it is that I can speak up for myself, how it is I can take better care of myself, how it is I can boost my self-esteem and self-worth, how it is that I can be more productive with the many hats it is that I wear. Let's create that self-care plan. Starting at the top, it says create a list of 25 words to describe how you want wellness to feel or look like in 2021. So that's for the rest of this year. We have just over 6 months to go. What would you like to invite into your life? What would you like to invite into your life? Is that wealth? Is that a business? What is that? And it says 25 words, but I'm going to ask you for 4 to 5. And I'm going to give you just about 30 seconds or so. Watch it upside down. To get that down. Okay. And tell me who is willing to share a few words on what you want wellness to feel or look like. Who's willing to share 3 of their words with me? Yes, Makara.
Okay. So, well, what I want it to look like is to be mentally balanced, the stresses in my life and anxiety. And to do this, and I've already started a month ago. I've started therapy now. So that to me is self-care, is making sure I continue my bi-weekly therapy appointment. And then also incorporate yoga, meditation, and prayer into the
Yeah.
journal every night before I go to bed.
Yes.
And then what I believe this will make me feel is to just release some of those things that, inside of me, and I'm able to, get out, talk to my therapist or journal about my feelings and everything like that, and just get it out. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna do that, and it's helping with my sleep because I had really bad sleep patterns.
Mm-hmm.
And so with this is allowing me to do that. And I also take a supplement. I don't know if that's considered okay, but
Okay.
I take ashwagandha and some chamomile and lavender supplements now to kind of ease that sleep issues that I had.
Okay. Good for you. Self-care. As long as you're consulting with your doctor and you are keeping your pulse on that, good for you. Good for you. Thank you for sharing, Makara. Can I have a couple more? Angelique, I think I saw your hand right after I saw Makara's. Is that true?
No, I was clapping for Makara.
Oh.
She said now taking ashwagandha supplementation. I'm all for it, and that is one that is really, really good. So
Okay.
For,
Okay.
that does wonders for sleep and relaxation.
Okay. Love it. Okay. And who else do we have? Who else can share with us?
For me,
Tiara.
I'm just one word would be balance.
Balance.
That's what self-care can help me with, just to be balanced, because I find myself, focusing on one aspect of life and everything else gets out of hand.
Yeah. Okay.
Balance.
Balance. Thank you for sharing that. Okay. Thank you, Tiara.
You're welcome.
Last one.
Mine will be peace.
Peace. Who is that? Sherry? Is that you?
Yes, I have to jump off to.
That's okay. No explanation. No, thank you for joining in and getting right engaged. You said yours would be what? Peace, was it?
Mine would be peace, and it's just even with things going on, I want to still be able to take care of myself enough to know that, regardless if I'm still having trials, I still have that internal peace where I can stay mental clear.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not reacting, and like one lady was saying, being in hindsight all the time, wishing I hadn't reacted a certain way.
Yeah.
And if I'm taking better care of myself, if I start taking care of myself and having wellness, I will experience that peace more. Even though things will go awry, I will still have personal peace in me because my wellness will be well established.
Yes, indeed. Okay. Yes, indeed. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you. Okay, moving on to the next one. It says choose the top 1 to 3 words that resonate with you. So just depending on how many you wrote, choose the top 1 to 3 words that resonate with you. I'm just going to give you about 10 seconds to do that. Alrighty, and from that list of 25 words you wrote, I want you to re-examine your list of potentially harmful habits, right? So what harmful habits is it that you may have on there? For example, remember I used the one about a pint of ice cream, right? If I would have written that down, because that's what I wanted to feel like, happy, eat a pint of ice cream a day, right? And not, what on there, now that you re-examine your list, what is potentially more harmful than you really took notice of before? That you say, you know what, this is actually not the best thing for me. Is there anything? If it's not, no problem. If it is, let's look at that. Let's talk about that. Okay? And moving on to that, I'm sorry, please.
I'm sorry. I was gonna say I didn't write it on my list, but I came to this conclusion yesterday. I heard someone talking about coming home and drinking 2 glasses of wine. I'm a wine drinker, but over the past few months, whenever I would drink, it would make me sick.
Mm.
So I'm like, every 7 years your body changes, right? So I'm like, is something going on? Anyways, yesterday I was meditating. I was like, why is this happening? And to piggyback off of what she was saying, it was because there are still things that I have to work through.
Mhm.
And instead of using it as a form of enjoyment, I was using it to suppress.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
that would be something for me.
Very good. That's the perfect example. So you all take a look, be gracious with yourself. If you wrote it down and now you realize, wow, that's more harmful than it was, I thought, good. Be gracious with yourself. You know now. Let's get that off of that list. Okay? And I'll let you hold that for yourself. Thank you for sharing that though, Alana. Okay, and the next one says, when I'm practicing self-care, what I'm really getting up to is, when I'm practicing self-care, and write that down, and I'm definitely want to hear your responses to this, so everybody get ready. When I'm practicing self-care, what I'm really getting up to is, I'm going to give you 30 seconds here to write that down.
I don't really understand the statement, what I'm really getting up to.
So okay, I can help you with that. So what it means there is, when you're practicing self-care, what is it that you're really, what goal is it that you're really working towards? Is it higher self-esteem? Is it more productivity? I don't want to give away too many, but do you get what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
That means we have 5 minutes, y'all. That was our alarm.
Darling, I'll go ahead and answer mine.
Yes, please.
Would be, when I'm practicing self-care, I'm getting up to be consistent.
Oh, that's good, Angela.
with that I've already set out to do.
Yes.
As hard as it is, some days you're like, I don't feel like doing that.
Yes.
Be consistent with it.
Yes,
Because
indeed.
that's where the change comes. That's been a struggle, over this past year, Lord. But
Yes.
being consistent, it pays off.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Thank you. Let's see. Amanda, what do you have?
Well, Angelique stole mine.
Consistent? I love it. Listen.
But actually, okay, so when I am practicing self-care in the form of enough sleep, I
Yeah.
am getting up to being able to focus.
Oh, good.
Yeah, because I can't focus.
Yes, that's so good. That's a good one. I didn't think of that. So good. Thank you for sharing. Who has not? Who is that? Angela, how about you? Please share your word with us. When I'm practicing self-care, what I'm really getting up to is.
Well, I always do this anyway. Always pray at night and sleep. So I'm really getting ready to go to sleep within an hour.
Okay.
But one thing that I'm really getting ready to do is go back to the gym. I used to go to the gym basically at least 3 times a week.
Mm-hmm.
Because of COVID, of course, it didn't happen. So I'm gonna start going back this upcoming Sunday.
Good. I love it. So physical wellness.
Yeah, but I'll still go back with my mask on, but I'm gonna go back to the gym.
Yes, I love it. Physical wellness. Thank you all for sharing. I'm going to go on to that next one. And this is a big one. What is the cost? Excuse me. What is the cost to not practicing this? What is the cost to not practicing self-care, basically? And just give me one thing. You can just blurt it out here for me. What is the cost to not practicing self-care?
Resentment.
Ooh, resentment. Feeling stuck. Resentment. What else did I hear?
Then my life, staying in the same situation.
Stagnant. Yes.
Being stuck, definitely.
What did you say, Renee?
Being confused.